And good morning to everybody here in the United States, and good afternoon to people in Europe. Welcome to the Living in Oneness Summit. Well, we have a very special program today, so stay tuned with us. Thank you for being here on your Sunday morning, May 18th. We are starting our program here today that goes till 9:30 Pacific time. We have a very special guest. I'll introduce him shortly, and then after that, we have the closing ceremony for the Living in Oneness Summit, 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific time, and do tune in. It's going to be incredible. We're going to share so much, including some of the jaw-dropping moments of this 12-day Living in Oneness Summit that started on Wednesday, May 7th, and ends today, Sunday, May 18th. I am Steve Farrell. I'll introduce myself. I'm the Worldwide Coordinating Director for Humanities Team, and I'm one of your hosts during the summit. Over 17,000 people have registered for the summit, and registration is still climbing. Today is the grand finale. We're broadcasting live each day with at least 2 programs, and we're talking about how we can become fully alive as part of the divine. How we can become fully alive as part of the divine, and isn't that the invitation in today's world? So we're just real excited about it, sharing lots of heart energy connected to no outlines, no lists, but also these spiritual authors that we've invited, these leaders in oneness, are bringing their spiritual tools, their pearls of wisdom for living in oneness. So we like to think that we're touching hearts and minds through the Living in Oneness Summit. I'd like to thank each of you, the listeners who were listening live and who are listening through the audio links. You've shared so much positive feedback with us, and if you heard me speak a little earlier, we're so grateful for you. Because you are what has made this experience extraordinary. So many of you that are tuning in, sharing feedback, questions and comments, and your own way for living in oneness. I want to share, just as a reminder, there is this $100 discount during the summit for those who purchase this upgrade package. With the discount, that's $93 for the silver, $173 for the gold, and $223 for the platinum package. And the upgrade packages allow you to again and again come back to the wisdom being shared and to share this wisdom with your friends and family. And, of course, these include MP3 links and the CDs and transcripts for the 30-plus leaders part of this year's program and all of the leaders who were part of last year's program in the Platinum package. If you're on Instant Teleseminar, we invite you to put your name, city, and country in the question window. Also, please share your inspirations that have come to you regarding the Living in Oneness Summit, and share any comments or questions or inspirations for Tim Freke as well. We'll be sure to get to at least a few during the hour, and we really do want to hear from you. We've got a special treat for you during this program. If you wanted to understand oneness, really become engaged with it and have some fun, I want to share you're in the right place. And those of you that tuned in early heard a little bit from Tim Freke. He is just an amazing person and friend. I'm going to introduce him now, and before I share a formal introduction, I just want to say he has been a friend of ours over the years. He's affected us, so many of us here in the United States and in South Africa and around the world. He's a prolific writer and speaker, but he's a good friend, somebody that just is really in this work for all the right reasons, helping people to come back to who they really are in oneness, and just an extraordinary person. Tim Freke is the big love philosopher, as he sometimes calls himself. He will wake you up to an experience of wonderful oneness and all-embracing love that he calls wow. He has been exploring this awakened state since he was 12 years old and is able to guide others directly to it. He presents life-transforming mystery experience retreats and entertaining evenings of stand-up philosophy throughout the world. Tim is a respected authority on world spirituality and the author of more than 30 books translated into 15 languages, including a top 10 international bestseller and UK Daily Telegraph Book of the Year. In his latest book, The Mystery Experience, he articulates a revolutionary paralogical philosophy of awakening, which is free from spiritual woo-woo. Welcome to the Living in Oneness Summit, Tim, and it's such a great pleasure to have you here with us.
It's a real delight, Steve. Thank you. Thank you for that lovely introduction. You're very kind.
Well, and you're very humble, so you might have heard just some of the things Tim shared as we were just kind of bantering back and forth before this program. One of the things that he does with his retreats is he brings people into the experience of oneness. And I asked him before this program if we could create something experiential, and he said, sure. So, but before we do that, I thought if you're open, Tim, what we could maybe do is just describe briefly, first of all, why and how did you create an experience in oneness, and just maybe a little bit on what it is, just so people understand it, and then maybe we could, go into the experiential exercise you've created.
Yes, I mean, well, for me, as you outlined when you were talking about a little bit about my journey, this has been a lifelong passion since I had a spontaneous awakening when I was 12 years old, and and found myself just very naturally moving into this place where I was connected with everything is one, where I was living in oneness. And the thing which marks out, living in oneness can sound a bit abstract, but the thing which marks it out for me is that living in oneness is living in love. And that when we sense that we are interconnected with everything and everyone, there's this big love. So that when you're connected with one person, when you love someone, it's because you sense the oneness between you. You're separate individuals, but you're also not. The separateness is transparent, so that their joys are your joys and their suffering is your suffering, and you love them, you're connected with them. And what happens with this spiritual awakening is that you sense that you're connected to everything and everyone in that way, and there's this unconditional, impersonal, irrational, big love, and that's a real visceral experience. And my own journey's been marked by exploring how I can find that love, and then how I can live in that love, and how I can share that love with others. So I've been looking the whole time for ways that I could do that, and I've been very blessed that over the last 10 years with the Mystery Experience Retreats, I have managed to create a vehicle through which most people can very, very quickly come into a direct and powerful experience of this oneness and this love. And once you've had that powerful experience, as many people I'm sure are listening to this right now have already had, once you've had that, or once you've come back to it enough times, you develop a confidence in it because you know it's there. And so even when your life journey may take you away from it, which it does for all of us, because the life journey is not straightforward, it's not linear. We talk about it as going up a mountain, but it's more like going round and round a mountain in some ways. And sometimes you end up falling back down, and it's never linear. But once you've found that deep knowing, there's a confidence, there's a faith, really, in that love and that oneness. And once you have that, it becomes much easier to make the journey. So that's what I wanted to do. And the way, you asked the way, I think there's the key for me as a philosopher, Steve, has been understanding paradox. And I've developed a way of thinking, I call it paralogical. So it's like logical, but it's paralogical. Logical thinking is kind of either or, so it's this or that. Paralogical is what I call both this and that. And so a simple example is oneness. We're talking about oneness, but you and I are clearly individual, and the world is full of separate things. So it's not just one, it's also one. It's not separate or one, it's both separate and all one. And I'm both this separate individual called Tim with his own particular quirks and good bits and bad bits and things he finds easy and things he finds hard, a kind of vulnerable guy who's on this journey from birth to death, meeting you, Steve, also like that, in a different way. And then deep inside us, if we go back far enough, there's this oneness. There's this profound being, God, if you're comfortable with that language. There is that we look into each other's eyes and we can see there's a beautiful individuality, and then deep inside our deepest identity is God, is the one. There's one of us. So what I've done is create ways in which we can connect in that paradox. So we're doing it now, all of us, you and I, the people listening to this, we can do it just with a switch of our attention, so that as I'm speaking now, there's a choice of listening. You're hearing sound, but the thing which you're connecting with through hearing the sound of my voice is actually the deep being from which it's emerging, myself as a conscious being. And that is something you can't hear. You hear the voice, but you don't hear that. You don't hear this deep being. And yet through the voice, you can reach through and connect with it as I'm speaking. So you can reach through, and there's Tim, which is the particular quality of my voice. I'm from England, from the West Country. I speak English. I have this particular tonality. That's who I am as an individual. And then through that, right the way back, there is the force of life, of God, of being, from which it's all arising. And we can connect with each other like that. When we do, there's a transformation in consciousness. So what I try and do is create an environment, and we can do it any time, really, but within a retreat environment, it becomes easy to focus, with which people can embrace both their vulnerable humanity, their beautiful individuality, and see through the separateness to the place where we're all one. And when that happens, love arises. Quite spontaneously and naturally of itself, there is love.
Yes, there is. And that is, in fact, what oneness is. I like to say oneness is the form, but its essence is love. And that's
Beautiful.
what we are. And gosh, I think for women can immediately often connect with that and say yes. And for men, it's, I think especially in the Western world, here in the U.S., sometimes men will say, well, I don't, maybe a little bit. But no, we are all, our essence is love, male and female. Yeah, and if we just take the time to really get in touch and go within and be in nature and so on, boy, we can feel that in the most extraordinary way. I didn't want to stop you there because I know you're on a roll here, Tim.
Well, the thing that's really struck me what you said there, Steve, is the line that came to me, which I use often, is that love is how oneness feels. What happens within Tim, how he feels, the feeling that arises, and not just the feeling, but it is love. When I sense that oneness, when I know that I'm one with life, then I'm one with you, and there is this love, and my feeling with love is that I like the word. It's a tricky old word, but I like it, and I really want to be bold about it now. I want to be able to say it and say it strongly and go, look, this love, this is not fluffy. It can be fluffy. It can be sweet and fluffy. And you know what? Actually, sweet, fluffy love is great. We all love sweet, fluffy love. But it's not just fluffy. It's also deep and strong. It's a love which can go into the deepest suffering. In fact, it's the only thing in my experience which can go into the deep suffering. I was with my dear, dear mum who died in November through that whole process of her illness and death last year. And the only thing which could sustain me and her through that was this love. Because love goes in there, and it doesn't, and again you see the paradox, because the love doesn't take the suffering away. And that's when it can seem fluffy, that you're going, oh, love will make it all right, and you know that it won't. That, that the suffering is still there. There is still pain. There is still loss. There is still heartbreak in life. But when the love comes as well, then it mitigates it, and there's this wholeness to the experience, so that there is almost a beauty to it. Magic happens. It's bittersweet. There's this bittersweet beauty to even the worst experiences through this love. So this love can hold the joy, the beauty, the beauty, the side of life we find easy, but it can also, it's strong and deep, and it can go right into the places in life which we find difficult. That's why it holds everything as one, because it can embrace all of that. So I want to hold up love and go, look, we don't have to be ashamed of this word. This is not a fluffy, hippy-dippy word. This is a strong, powerful thing. It goes right in every. I've written books, as you said, on just about every single major spiritual tradition. And when you get to their deep, deep heart, they're all saying the same thing. We're all one. What really matters is love. And that's it. Again and again, we're all one. What really matters is love. Simple as that.
Yeah, boy, and I love that that part of your statement is that love isn't fluffy. It's strong, it's bold. I myself, first of all, for me, oneness is this aspect. It is God, it's divinity. So it's the deepest love, it's the greatest embrace, it's the biggest smile, it's the most healing moment. It's all of these things. It's God, and we're cells in the body of God, and And as I consider, what would be my dream life? Well, my dream life would be very simple. The most loving partner, which I'm grateful to have. The most loving kids, the most loving home, the most loving dog, the most loving teacher, the most loving minister. And where am I going with this? There's a common thread here. What is it? So this aspect of divine source, God, and we're a cell in the body of God, and God's invitation is just more of this, more of the same. Bring it on in every sphere of life. Humanities team created this Oneness in 12 spheres of life. We actually talk about, just healthcare, just infrastructure, just spirituality. And guess what we talk about? Love.
Yeah,
and healthcare. Yeah. Love. And
that's right. That's right. And there's a line which I've been using more and more, Steve, which again, it's part of this. It's what you're saying. And the line which works really well for me is that love is a political act. Love is a spiritual act. It is. We know that. Love is an emotional act. We know that. Love is, can be service. We know that. Love is all of these things. Love is between individuals, our partners, our kids, our friends. But love is also a political act, because if we're going to transform our collective, with healthcare, or we have to go, first, what do we want? And as you say, what we want is to live in a world where people love, where we love. We love life. We love each other. We love through the difficult times. That's what we want. And the way we will get that is to bring love to every endeavor in our lives. And that means making love a political act, that when we act from love, we are doing it to change the polis. We are doing it to change the society of human beings in which we live, from one which is based on what we can get from each other, to a culture of kindness.
Well, that's so perfect, because, Tim, you don't know this, I'm sure, but I was just mentioning this project called Oneness in 12 Spheres of Life. One of the spheres is governance. Well, guess what's up next in June? Governance. And guess who our speaker is? Marianne Williamson. Guess what Marianne Williamson is doing? Running for Congress.
Yes.
To bring love,
into
politics, into the Capitol Hill here in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So absolutely. That's exactly it. And thank God, just as we've been inspired to do the things that we're doing, people like Marianne Williamson inspired to run for office and bring love to the halls of Congress. And Tim, you probably don't see the polarity, or maybe you do, that's a part of politics here in the United States today.
Oh, I do. We have it here, but in the States, it just seems out of control.
Yeah,
and scary.
Yeah, it is.
And this meanness which you see inhabits our society, and it breaks my heart. Reading the newspaper just breaks my heart, because it's not even the big meanness; it's the small little meannesses that we could all avoid, and that when we wake up to that oneness, there's this natural compassion, and especially why the polarity is so important to me, Steve, is because it's not just about waking up to the oneness for me; it's also about staying in touch with the humility of being human. Because if I stay in touch with that, then we can have compassion for each other. We can have forgiveness for each other, because we know that all of us are on this journey, and it's not easy. It's hard sometimes, really hard. And that enables us to love, to have compassion, and to feel the empathy of oneness. That that could be me. I get where you are, even if it, and so that there's this kindness rather than this meanness, which comes from separateness. It's when there's no connection, when you can look at a human being and not have that empathy, you can be mean to them. But when you have that sense of connection and empathy, you can't do that.
Absolutely. No, you can't. I'm going to go deeper on this one. I love it, where we're actually talking about just being loving or not. I want to go deeper on it. But first, let me bring in a few comments. Bonnie Beth says, boy, so great to be a part of this summit. She's in Castro Valley, California. A comment from Diana in Alkmaar. And she says, just saying where I'm from. Great to be here. Tim live. Great to hear Tim live. Monica in Santa Rosa, California says, I am peace and love. I am here to help the humanity to understand that we are all part of the same divine energy in the universe. The love is the key for happiness. God is love. We are love. We are God. We are one. Oh, boy. Beautiful, Monica. That is beautiful. Monica from Santa Rosa, California. Let's see. Here's this is Georgie from in Texas. Says, I've been looking forward to Tim's call the most. from all of these wonderful speakers. He has a video on Vimeo. He is in some huge trees with a huge migration of butterflies all around. It is so beautiful. When I need to remind my heart of love, that is my go-to video. Wow.
Oh, how lovely.
Oh, Georgie, thank you from Texas. Thank you for sharing that. We'll come back to more comments and questions. I'm talking to Tim Freke, our special guest for the hour. He's calling in from the United Kingdom. And Tim was just sharing, he was talking about politics here in the U.S. and saying, you know, these little unkindnesses where we share something that's hurtful, you know, we can feel it. I just wanted to go deeper on that because I so relate to that. You know, for me, when I share love, it's like a boomerang. I'm just throwing it out, and it's coming back, you know, threefold. I throw it out again, and it comes back threefold. And I feel that energy in others of their love, their smile. If they're in a hurting place, and I'm doing something with them that I'm hoping is loving, you know, just connecting with them, feeling maybe a little better. And then if where I see unkindness kinds of things, and you know, earlier in my life when I'll call myself unconscious, and I could also and can deeply connect with people where it's another kind of energy, where they're just in a state of fear, of exasperation, of stress, of unease, you know, of dis-ease, of all of these kinds of things. And of course, you know, all of us with our family and friends, we're around these other energies all the time. And where we bring love to these energies of discord, it's a beautiful thing. And where we don't, we have some destination, I've got to do this and this and this today, and we just go on our way and don't help people. You know, for me, a very empty feeling is left inside. So one of the things of, you know, this parable of the Good Samaritan, I often talk about it. For me, this is a big thing in what oneness is. It's being more concerned about the journey and just loving the people that you're with than the destination of making sure you've got your PowerPoint slide together and, you know, and your hair is combed neatly and your suit is great. Those aren't bad things. But if we
yeah, that's it, isn't it, Steve? It's like, those aren't bad things. They're really good things. You want to be on time. You want to have your hair. Well, not me, because I've got no hair. But, you know, if I had hair, I want it to be whatever I wanted it to be. But the thing which you just pointed out there is so lovely, is the whole of life is about prioritizing what really matters. And that's really the mistake that often we make collectively and individually, is we don't prioritize what really matters. And so a huge amount for me of this journey is just to keep remembering what really matters. And, you know, I just said that I went through the death of my dear mum last year. And one of the things which really does that is being around death, because you get to see what really matters. And I deal with a lot of people who are around death. And you just see, like, this just wakes people up. It wakes us up because we go, what really matters? Once the reason why the remembrance of death is a constant technique in most spiritual traditions is because it makes you really alive. It makes you realize that what really matters is love. And that in that, when you see that, then you can then go, look, leave the PowerPoint. Let's make sure that we get the love bit right, and then we'll do the PowerPoint.
Right. Absolutely. It's not that the destination isn't important. In calls like this, gosh, we want to be on time. Listeners are counting on us to be on time. But they're little, you know, the way that we talk about these synchronicities, you know, that happen to us all the time, especially where we're doing this spiritual work, where we're, you know, really dedicating our lives to the oneness, you know, to God, to each other. The synchronicities just are all over the place. And so what tends to happen is something can pull you off the path a little bit, but not so much to be late to your program. Instead, just to kind of have that warm moment, that kindness moment, that compassionate moment, you know, maybe an hour or two before the program, where you do allow 5, 10, 15 minutes that were unplanned to do something and just smile or hug somebody or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so much it feels to me, Steve, is about how we look at things, so that, you know, whether we, for instance, see life as mundane or whether we see it as miraculous. And it's both. In one way, it's very mundane. It's the same every day. In another way, it's completely miraculous. It's happening fresh in every moment. And we can see both, or we can just see one. We can get stuck in it. Oh, it's just mundane. So and for me, the image, which is a very old image which has been used in spiritual traditions right across the world and which I use a lot is the waking up really does feel a great idea, waking up, because what I see when I'm awake is that this is like this is God's dream. The Hindus talk of it as the dream of Brahman. The Zen masters talk about it as the dream of big mind. St. Paul talks about it as God's dream. It's that this is a dream, and within that dream is all these beautiful forms, and we are these unique individuals, and that's what's so lovely about us. And yet, we're all really the dreamer. Everything is really the dreamer. And when I get lost in the dream of separateness, that's when it becomes hellish. And when I wake up and realize that I am on one hand, I'm Tim in the dream, but also everything, including Tim, is all God, is all the Brahman, is all the big mind, is all the one awareness. Then I see this, then I'm connected, and then this love comes in, because that's why I think God is love. As it says in John, that God is love, because when we sense the oneness of all things, love is how that feels. So if I'm lost in the dream, I'm just Tim, I'm this fearful, separate individual. If I wake up, I'm God appearing as Tim, meeting God appearing as Steve, and everyone else, and the trees, and the grass, and the sky, including all the difficult things as well, and bringing that love to that recognition, to that journey.
Beautiful. Tim, let's maybe go to a moment that you can think of even in the last 24 months where, as the author and speaker that you are, on airplanes and stuck in airports and all of this, you have to have moments where, just as you said, you kind of fall out of it, and you feel the separateness, and it's hellish. You've probably created your own sort of instant restart methods to, say, whoa. I'm not where I want to be. It's either pitchforks and it's hot. What are the things that you do, Tim, to really, sort of hit the reboot button?
My favorite technique, I have to tell you, is taken from Alan Watts. Alan Watts, the great English philosopher, towards the end of his life, he said his technique for staying awake was to get up first thing in the morning and stand naked in front of the mirror and laugh. So that's one of my favorites too. Because we're back in airport lounges, the first thing I want to say to anyone who's listening to this, please make no mistake about it. It's not been once in a while in the last 6 months that I've fallen out of this. My whole life is a dance between being conscious and unconscious, and my experience being around a lot of amazing people is that that's true for all of us. So the first thing I feel is it's really important that we're very kind to ourselves, because even the most awake of us, and I've met very amazing people, is on a dance between being less and more conscious. Everybody is. Let's not create a fantasy version of ourselves or of anyone else that we have to live up to. Let's be real with the way it is. Because we are this amazing being, and then we're this particular human being, and that is a hell of a span, that polarity. So, as Philo Judaeus, the ancient Jewish philosopher, said, be kind to everyone, because everyone's carrying a heavy burden, and that includes yourself. So my first thing, if I'm feeling like, one of the most obvious examples for me is going through the death of my mum. Just seeing her really in states of distress, and, my mum, who was the most amazing, loving, my guru, really, just because she was just naturally in this, not because she thought about it like me or read books like me, or just because she was in many ways a very everyday woman, but just because she knew she was in it, like many people are, without thinking about it, without doing practices. She was just full of love, totally, actually, full of love. And seeing her in states where she was confused, or, she was not, this is hard to stay awake in those situations in some ways. And also mine, not just big things for me, it's little things, grumpiness in the morning, or a million things, like everyone. That's our predicament. That's the human predicament. And within that, what we can do is just find the things which enable us to remember. I mean, like somebody just said, watching one of my videos helps them remember. I do things like that. But the things which is key for me, I would say, is to enter the mystery of the moment. Because what I notice is that when when I'm caught up in my ideas about the way life is, oh, it's like this, and oh, the world is so terrible, or I'm so terrible, or something so terrible. It's a story which I'm telling myself. And it's a reasonable story. It's no good going it's not reasonable because it's got jolly good reasons I believe it. So it's a perfectly reasonable story. And yet, I've forgotten the other pole. There's the story, but I've forgotten that deep down, life is this mystery, and I don't know what it is. So I'm here right now in this moment, and there's a story about what life is, and then I don't know what it is. Underneath, it is the great mystery, as the Native Americans say. God is the great mystery. Here it is in front of me. What is this I'm experiencing? And so by remembering that, and what I see is that when I come into the mystery, sometimes it can be a bit scary to step out of your story and you step into the mystery. There's an initial moment of, oh, God. But if you just relax that and step into it, it becomes wonder. And you start literally feeling like you're waking up from this very narrow perception. And I see wonder, like, oh, yeah, that's all true, maybe all of that terribleness, but they're also, this moment is wondrous, that I can see these green plants right now, and the play of the light is wondrous, that I'm alive at all is wondrous. And if I let go into that mystery, into that wonder, then that's when it becomes wow, because it's just wow. And my feeling is I don't want to wait for death and things like that to wake me up to how wow life is. I want to keep seeing it for myself now. So one of the ways I do that is simply that, Steve, just using the mystery of the moment as a doorway out of this particular story I'm telling and into the wow, through the wonder. And I remember.
Yeah. Oh,
and then I can come back to whatever the problem was.
The mystery of the moment as a doorway into the wow or into the oneness or into the love. I love that. The mystery of the moment. That's a definite quotable quote. And love also you've covered so many points here, Tim, but first of all, just sharing several times now bringing in your mom's transition and being with your mom as she's going through that. And with just the despair on her face, and trying to stay in oneness and trying to be comforting to her. God, I know I can just totally feel that when you talk about it, and I know the listeners can too.
There was a moment, Steve. People often ask me who my great teachers have been, and I've had loads of great spiritual teachers and philosophical teachers. My greatest teacher was my mum. And she was an everyday woman, and she didn't teach me with words. She just taught me by example. And there's lots of people in the world like that. People, you all know people, I'm sure. All the listeners will know people. People who just are living in oneness, living in love. And it's the little things. I mean, I remember, here's an example of what you're saying. I'm sitting with my mum, waiting to see the doctor about her radiotherapy. So she has cancer. I'm sitting there, I'm lost in my story. Oh, my mum's got cancer, what am I going to do? Hope it's going to be all right, what can I do? I'm concerned, I'm trying to think about, I'm trying to be her son, and it's all understandable. In a way, it was the right thing for me. My mum's sitting there, and next door to her is an elderly lady wearing a very bad wig. She's lost all her hair. So what's my mum in? She's not in, oh, God, I've got cancer, and she immediately sees her, goes right over to her and goes, can I just tell you how lovely your hair is looking? And this woman starts to cry, and then suddenly they're there in the moment together. She's holding her hand, and this woman is just pouring out what she's been through, and my mum's right there with her going, oh, right, I see. And I just looked at that, and I thought, if one day I can be that, if one day I can be that conscious and aware of others, that even in the midst of my own serious illness, I am there going, oh, there's another human being there who's in distress. I'll just reach out to them for a second. That would be a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. My mother comes to mind as you're talking, Tim, and she's been listening in to many of these programs. She may be listening in right now. I know she'll be listening today, catching replays if she can't catch them live. And just like your mom, just an incredible person that's been such an example and so much wisdom and so much love and candidly so much courage. She's an indigo, so indigos just go straight through the woods. They cut their own path. They don't. Somebody says, "What are you doing?" They say, "What does it look like I'm doing?" So beautiful to bring that in. And also, I was going to comment on something else, and a listener just did. So let me bring in her comment. Michelle from Arles, France says, being in a dance between less and more conscious. Yes, and thank you, Tim, for showing that we don't have to be perfect all the time. I was going to comment on that too, Tim, so I'm glad Michelle brought that in from Arles, France, that, for us, all of us, and the people that are spiritual leaders and, the presidents of our country and the ministers, everybody, we all wear the same pants, we all have the same challenges. And just like you say, and candidly, if, you and I have different thoughts about Jesus, but, in the Jesus of my understanding, he made mistakes too, but he was an incredible, powerful leader that did do so many things that, the world is still wowing today. But I bring that in because so true what you said earlier. There are all of these challenges. That's what the embodiment is about, isn't it? That's why we came into the relative world.
What's so powerful to me of all these traditions which I've studied and written on. I mean, I love them all for different reasons because they've all brought into the world a particular wisdom, a particular take on the one thing. But Christianity, and especially in its deep form, has really got this love and this humility. And you're right, in the figure of Jesus, you see someone who struggles forward. And one of the things which I rail against a bit is that when I was growing up through the 70s, I would grow up in the West Country of the backwater of England in the 70s. So the 60s arrived there in the 70s. And so suddenly we had this explosion of kind of that 60s energy, which was bringing in a lot of Indian ideas, where we'd rejected a lot of Western stuff. And we brought in these ideas like enlightenment, which in itself is a very powerful idea, but what it left was this vestige that you should have arrived somewhere, that you needed to be perfect, that you needed all these, which wasn't here in our Western tradition before. In our tradition, the people, the saints, the people who were struggling towards God were often troubled people. They weren't perfect. They were people of integrity who did their best, who struggled to find the goodness within them to bring love to life, often in difficult circumstances. It wasn't that they had arrived and they were always, and this whole idea of arriving without traveling, or having sunny days without rainy days, or good without bad, or life without death, these things come together. And therefore, we can embrace, we want the oneness, we need to embrace the two-ness. we need to allow that they both come together. And the final thought that came up for me, Steve, because you brought up Christianity, is that right in the center of Christianity, I feel, is the two simple ideas which address everything, which is this lovely thing. We have the figure of Jesus coming in to a Jewish culture full of rules and regulations and religious do's and don'ts and all the rest of it, commandments. And this figure of Jesus says, look, there's just two, really. And the second one is pretty much the same as the first. And the two capture for me the paradox of life perfectly. One is love God. Well, God is the oneness of all things. So be one with the one. Love God. That's the first commandment. And then the second is love others as yourself. Because when you see that you're one with everything, they are yourself. And there, we were told that, people got that into consciousness 2,000 years ago. And it's still essentially it. That's it. Okay. What do we need to do when we're feeling lost? Just remember that. Yeah, okay. So I need to love God. I need to be one with the one being that is all. Just to let go of my separateness into that, and then to come back into the separateness, and then love others as myself, because we are each other.
Oh, boy. I am so glad you pointed us straight into this, Tim. This is the one for me. John Thomas is listening in. He's one of the leaders here during the summit, and has been interviewing guests. He's the conscious business coordinator for Humanities Team now, and he and I are talking to business leaders about bringing spiritually conscious business into the world. And this is what I always come back to, where these two, this is Jesus, somebody asked, but just like you say, Jesus, what are the two most important commandments? And he said, love God with all of your heart, all of your might, all of your soul, all of yourself, and then what's the second one? Love others as yourself. And for me, and just as you say, all of the religions, if you distill them down, this is what it comes back to. These simple things. And this is what it's about. This is what, for me, oneness is about. And you, just like you said, you naturally do number two, love others as yourself, when you do the first one, when you love God that way. And this is the thing that gets me up in the morning, within humanity.
Me too. Me too.
We don't have income, and authors and speakers have, but most people maybe don't know, the income is not that great.
It's really not. It's really not.
It's not.
It's shockingly low.
Yeah, it is. So there's something driving us. We're basically volunteers. So what's motivating us to be volunteers and to give our lives to this work? And it's this, is to envision this world, this wow, what you call this wow moment, that we can invite people into, and just put it on the table, just talk about it a little bit, share a little heart energy, and then, if it's at the right time and moment, people embrace it. And of course, even if they embrace it, they're going to embrace it in their own way. I love what you said at the beginning of the program, Tim, as we were talking about paths to the mountaintop, and you said, there's only one, and it's your path. It's your path. And that's what the Living in Oneness Summit is about, too. We can talk about sort of what it all distills down to, but how we get there, what that journey is.
There you've got it. That paradox, Steve, which you just pointed to then. It's like I just want to jump in because I want to really flag that up for everybody. This paradox that permeates everything. And, it's the yin-yang sign in ancient China. The black dot in the white and the black, they're turning into each other. They both coexist. And it permeates everything. And most importantly is that we're one and we're separate. And they're both true. And the oneness arises as well as the separateness, and then the separateness is different because of the oneness. So that your path is yours, and it's unique, and yet it's the same as everyone else's, but it's yours. And there is one thing we're finding, and yet it's different for each of us because we're each a unique perspective on the one. Quite literally, we're in this one universe, this infinitely large universe. And I am standing at this particular place in space and time and experiencing it, and you and you and you and you are at different places in space and time and experiencing the one universe. And because we're in different places on the journey, it looks different to us. And it will feel different to us. And that compassion of not seeing it as linear. One of the things I hate is this idea that comes across sometimes that if someone's up and feeling good and going, yeah, life's great, that they've arrived. And if someone is kind of going, well, actually, I'm really struggling, that they haven't. And I don't see it like that. I see it much more like a journey, so that, my journey may take me now, I may be walking now on my journey through a beautiful sunlit meadow and skipping, and it's great. And yours, you may be in a marsh and stuck, and it's really hard going. But at the end of my meadow, there will be a dark wood, and then I will be in the dark wood. And at the end of your march, you might spend some time by the seaside before you move on. And that each one of us, on our journey, it's not about how we look at any one time. It's about making the whole journey and realizing that after great periods, there's difficult periods. After difficult periods, there's great periods. And it's rather than, yes, but if we were really awake, it always would be sunny days. It's not.
Yeah. Oh, no. Absolutely not. No, I was starting a little earlier. This has been such an incredible conversation, Tim. This is why Spirit led us to bring you on as the special guest. By the way, Dee Meyer, the other leader that's interviewing guests, was saying as we were talking about the program, she said, God, Tim, you all know each other so well. It'd be so perfect. And was she right on that or what? I'm glad that you are the last guest, because we're just really kind of noodling. We're looking through all of what's on the table here, or much of what's on the table from the Living in Oneness Summit. You use the word separate. We use the word, or I should say, I use the word individuation. It's
beautiful. Individuation, great word.
Yeah. But oneness and then an individuation of the whole. But yeah, in my understanding, there certainly is no all sunny. The invitation in life is to come into mastery. Mastery of what? Well, again, this is just my own understanding, but it's the mastery of that we all are in this relational world. We all do have, just as you said, this mix of these sunny days and these rainy days, these meadows and these marshes. It's the combination, and the mastery is just where we stay in that connected state, and where we can feel those two things, this love of God and love of another, for as much of the time as possible. I don't believe myself, and I could be wrong about this, but I don't believe any prophet or messenger has actually been there 100% of the time, despite their level of mastery. So we don't need to shoot for perfection. I don't even know that we need to shoot for excellence. But where the fruit comes, just as you've described, as you talked about the hell state where we feel the fire and the pitchforks, where we fall into separateness, and the wow experience of oneness, there's a huge difference here, between A and Z and the alphabet. And the fruit comes from the mastery, each of us coming into it in our own way, where we can stay connected, feel that God energy, loving God, the one presence, and loving each of those around us, knowing they're a part of the one presence. We are, in fact, cells in the body of God, divinity.
I've got another line coming to me here as you're talking from Jesus. He's around today, isn't he? He's popping in again. And this one's from the Gospel of Thomas, one of my favorite Gnostic Gospels. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Gospel. And in the Gospel of Thomas, there's this great moment where one of the disciples says to Jesus, "When will the kingdom of heaven come?" And he says, "Not by waiting for it. The kingdom is spread out across the earth, and people just don't see it."
Yeah. Spread out across the earth, and people can't see it. Yeah. Isn't that the truth?
Isn't that the truth? That's what I mean by the mystery of the moment and the wow. Is like when I can't see it, when that heaven and hell are here and now. So when I'm in hell, it's because I can't see heaven is laid out upon the earth. And even in the places where I've been, as I'm bringing up a lot today, because it's been, not that long ago for me, with my mum, which was as close to hell in many ways as I can imagine or want to imagine, there was also heaven spread out across the earth, funnily enough, as well. And there was this bittersweet beauty and connection and tenderness, not instead of the suffering, but as well, or through it even. And that's what I love also about this, that love is the oneness, the thing which brings together all the opposites. It's the thing which brings together me and the other, me and the world, me and you. It's the thing that brings together joy and suffering. It's the thing which brings together the rainy days and the sunny days, the things which are easy, the things which are difficult. Love can come to anything. You know that as a parent. I mean, for me, the crash course in love has been being a dad. You just see, love is, you need to be tough in love. You need to be soft in love. Love has to needs to morph into all these different things. You need to be able to go no because of love, as well as yes because of love. It has to be everything. But the thing which makes it love is there is this connection, this kindness, this goodness permeating it. That you're looking always for the goodness in yourself and life and each other.
Oh, boy, isn't that the truth? Gosh, you have really got some for the refrigerator door here today. Tim, Gospel of Thomas, when will the kingdom of heaven come? Not by waiting for it. It is spread out across the earth, and people can't see it. Then, as you go into this, into what oneness is, that it's in the connection, it's in the kindness, it's in the goodness, and that we are tough in love and we're soft in love. And just send these things send tingles up my spine. I'm guessing I'm speaking for all the listeners. In fact, we have wowzers. What a great guest for the finish. That's from one of our leaders. So, Tim, oh, gosh, so amazing. By the way, we have 6 minutes, and then we're going to go into the wrap-up because the way this thing works is we've got the recordings and transcripts and all of that. We have to finish by the half hour. But Oh my God, we're just throwing, you're throwing ringers again and again and again as we're going into this discussion of what are the challenges here on Earth, and how what is our journey like, and what is oneness, and it's just amazing. We somehow ended up in this place of flow, I think, where that's that God state where we're not really talking from our minds or memory. We're just kind of channeling, aren't we? That energy of oneness.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so amazing, and so neat that this has got all of the wisdom about oneness, but it's also the example of oneness. We said earlier we're talking about something experiential. This program has been experiential.
Yeah, good. That's what we want, isn't it? But, Steve, while we've got a second, another thing, I want to just give a little gift to the people that are listening, because if they haven't connected with it, I really want. And people, you mentioned the film I made with the butterflies. There's another film as well on my website, The Mystery Experience, or Google Tim Freke. Freke's such an odd name, you'll find it. Freke. There's a film called The Mystery Experience, which is really about this oneness and this love. It's very short, it's 5 minutes, but for most people, it's a real rush of getting what this is, and it's been beautifully crafted by a British filmmaker to really convey this, what waking up to oneness and big love, how it feels, and to convey the feeling. So if anyone's looking for what can I do to wake myself up, just go out and have a look at that for 5 minutes and see if that does the trick. Yeah,
that's timfreke.com. That's TIMFREKE.com. Check that out. We'll come back to that one more time in the wrap-up here as well. I want to bring in a few comments. Monica in Frankfurt, Germany says, spread across the world reminds me of what Patricia, she's referring to Patricia Coda-Robles, who was with us on Thursday, another magnificent guest, and she says, reminds me of what Patricia said recently, we are the ones we have been waiting for. And I know, Tim, that must resonate with you. And then Jean from Henderson, Nevada, then I'll come back to you, Tim. It says that if we expect ourselves to be too spiritual to fail, we are often quick to throw ourselves into a state of self-mortification over every little thing. So another listener coming back to what you said, that geez, there's no perfection here, there's no excellence. We're all just bringing our best to it every day.
That's so sweet, isn't it? If we can meet in that authenticity, where we can be these partial, vulnerable, gorgeous, wounded, slightly broken human beings, which we all are, and be honest with that and real with it and care for each other as that, on what is often a difficult journey, and at the same time see through to this place where we're completely safe, where we're all one, where there's this huge love, and we're that. And which are we? Well, we're both of those at once. We're already perfect. And we're on a journey in which we're always slightly, learning. We're always learning more. So we're never perfect. But we're both at once. That's the paradox. And the other paradox, which I really want to share from what that lovely comment that came in just a moment ago, I'm making up these little cards I want to give people, which just says on it, you are the one. Because I feel like I want people to put them up everywhere. You are the one. And what I love about that line is the paradox, which is, look, I mean it in both senses. You are the one because we are all the one. It's just the one. And you are the one. You are the one as this particular someone on this particular journey, this unique, special journey of your life. The one has become you, become this someone, and you are the one. And it's about you. The life is all about you and what you can experience and then what you can give, what you can know and what you can show, what you can realize and what you can express. And that the great thing about waking up to the one is that it empowers us as a one, as a someone, to really take a risk in life and to really engage with the adventure and to bring love to life.
That's the invitation, isn't it? I love that. Know and to show, realize and to express. Take the risk. Be on this journey, and it's such an incredible journey. And we all could have certainly gone into careers or were in careers where there was a lot more, maybe I'll call it financial remuneration, but gosh, look at the fruit of this journey. And one of the things that we alluded to during our discussion here between Tim and me was that where we commit ourselves to this work, for me, this thing, give unto the kingdom, and all things will be done unto you. It has been so true, which basically means commit to this work, just with all of your heart, all of your authenticity. Do, God's work or this oneness work and live it as best you can. Invite others in, and all things will be done unto you. There'll be so many synchronicities, such as the synchronicity of this program and in the home that we have with our kids and our significant other, in the experiences that we have. And it's just so much more meaningful than being on this path that tends to be a more material path in this world, and that lacks meaning, and lacks purpose, and oftentimes where the whole materiality thing comes crashing down anyway. So it's a magnificent journey. Tim, just a last couple of words from you before we go into some things I want to share here.
Oh, well, I think after the particular flavor of the conversation which we've had, which has been a delight, as you were speaking then, yet another from the Christian tradition, which has been very strong in our conversation, which is lovely, which captures what we've been talking about for me, my favorite quote from one of the letters of John, where it just says, God is love, and those that live in God, live in love, live in God, and God lives in them. God is love, and those that live in love live in God, and God lives in them.
Oh, my God. That is so perfect, Tim. God is love, and live in God, and God lives in them. Oh, God, just so profound and so beautiful and so perfect. As we wrap up this hour, and this hour went just way too fast, I want to invite you, because if you haven't or are following Tim's work, you go check out his site, timfreke.com. And you can learn more about Tim and his programs and his retreats. I know he's coming to the U.S. here sometime this year, so that's one of the things you could check out. I want to thank again all of the listeners that have made this summit what it is, such an incredible program. Your comments and your own wisdom, your own processes for living in oneness have enriched us tremendously, and we're so grateful to all of you. I want to just remind you there's a 48-hour free replay for all of these programs that are part of the summit, so do go check those out, 48-hour free replay on all the programs. By the way, people I hope will listen in to Tim's program again, because there was so much here to catch. And there was a guy, Kenji Kimura, who was on yesterday morning, and two other magnificent people who were terrific. There's actually a lot of email going around right now regarding Kenji's program. So if you missed that yesterday, you might want to go listen to that free link. And then for those of you that want to listen to this wisdom again and again and share it with friends and family, we've got this $100 discount on the upgrades that will go on just for a little longer, and which allows you to get these MP3s, transcripts, and CDs on this year's program and last year's program. And Tim Freke, I want to thank you so much. He's such a great friend of mine and friend of humanity's team, and it's just been a marvelous hour. Tim, thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you for all the great work you and your associates and volunteers are doing.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We receive that, and I want to thank also my colleagues, Dee Meyer, Nanette Kennedy, John Thomas, and all of the other leaders in humanity's team who have made this summit possible. And then again, come back to you, the listening audience. Huge thank you to you for being here and making this the extraordinary summit that it's been. I want to just talk about this closing ceremony now that's in a half hour from now. It's from 10 to 11 Pacific time. It's with myself, Dee Meyer, John Thomas, and during the hour, we're going to be bringing in Nanette Kennedy, Julene Cole, Carrie Beach, and others of our leaders who made this possible. We're going to do this huge, crescendo experience. Tim mentioned crescendo. Yeah, let's make it a heart in the sky. Perfect. That's what it's going to be. A crescendo experience of fireworks forming a heart in the sky, and that's going to be from 10 to 11 Pacific time, so it's in about a half hour. Don't miss it. We're going to bring in as well a little bit more about our own journey in oneness with the careers we disconnected from and why, and we're going to share our most memorable, jaw-dropping moments of the Living in Oneness Summit. And Tim, certainly this is going to be one of them. Many thanks to you, Tim, and everybody, and we'll be back in a half hour. So take care. And Tim, we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.